Okay, this video is going to be about Module 1 and commonly missed problems from Exam 1 that we usually see. And usually the Roman numerals is what gives students some issues. And so I want to take some time to go over a couple problems. And so before I do that, I would like to go over what the Roman numerals are very quickly and some of the rules that you may or may not have realized that were there. So if we look at the Roman numerals themselves, we have a system that does not have a numeral or symbol for every number. So all they have is symbols for 1, 5, 10, 50, 100, 500, and 1,000. And the symbols are I, V, X, L, C, D, and M. Okay, so I don't know if you realize that on page 166 and 167 in the textbook, I have summarized the rules for Roman numerals here with some examples. So let's take a look at number 1. Starting from the left, add each numeral unless its value is smaller than the value of the numeral to the right. So we're going to be adding, in this case, because we have a V and an I. The I is smaller, it's on the right. So we can go ahead and do 5 plus 1 is 6. However, you put the I in front of the V, we're going to have to subtract, and that's what rule number 2 talks about. So the second one says if the numeral on the left is smaller than the numeral to its right, subtract its value from the value of the numeral to its right. So in this case, we have the I in front of the V, so that's going to be subtracting 1 from 5, which you get 4. So this is going to be 6, and this will be 4. Okay? The third rule talks about 1, 10, 100, and 1,000. That those are the only numbers that can be subtracted. Okay, you cannot subtract 5s, 50s, or 500. So you can only subtract these right here. So for example, this is a correct, you can subtract 1 from 10 or I from X to get 9. You cannot put a V in front of an L to try to get 45. Okay, this is incorrect. The correct version would be putting an X in front of an L, which is 50, so you're doing 10, taking away 10 from 50, so 50 minus 10 is going to be 40, plus this 5, it's going to give you 45. Okay? So the next rule talks about the same numbers, 1, 10, 100, and 1,000. Yes, you can subtract them, but you can only subtract them from the next two higher numbers. Okay? So you can subtract 1 from 5 and 10. Those are the next two higher numbers, but you cannot subtract 1 from 100 to try to get 99, for example. So here's some correct and incorrect examples. So you can subtract 10 from L, or X from L, which is taking 10 away from 50. That'll give you 40. But you cannot put an X in front of a D because this is too far out. Okay, to try to get 490. All right, so that's what number 4 is about. Rule number 5, using those same numbers, we can actually repeat them to get some more numbers, but we can only repeat them 3 times. Okay? 5, 50, and 500 cannot be repeated at all. Okay, so here's some examples of correct and incorrect. So we can repeat the X 3 times to get us 30, but we cannot repeat it 4 times to get 40. And although this is within the 3 times, we're not allowed to add V's together. Okay, so we're not allowed to repeat those V's. And the last rule that comes up very rarely, but if we see a bar over a numeral, you're just going to multiply that numeral times 1,000. Again, you can read about those in the textbook on page 166 and 167. So let's use that information to answer the following questions. So we have convert Roman numerals to Hindu Arabic. So in this example, we have CCXCIV. All right, so what you want to do is you want to look for repeated numbers. You want to look for numbers that are smaller in front. So C and C are the same, and so that's a repetition. So we're going to go ahead and put those together. We know that C is 100, so we're just going to call this 200. And then we notice that there's another C here, but there's a number smaller in front. So we're going to go ahead and subtract this 10 from this 100. And next we see another example of a letter smaller than the next letter, so that means we're going to subtract 1 from the 5. Okay, so you don't have to write out the subtraction if you do it in your head. So this is going to be 200 plus 90 plus 4, which is 294. All right, so let's take our numbers and convert them back to Roman numerals. So we want to kind of do the same thing where we are separating our place values. So you're going to see this in early on in the section as well. So we want to go ahead and separate the 3, which is in the third spot, that's 300. And we want to separate this 9 in the second position, that's 90. And the 9 in the first position, that's going to be 9. So we know that this 300 is actually the addition of 3 letters. So that's going to be C, 3 C's together. We know that this 90 is 10 lower than 100, so we're going to go ahead and say this is 100 minus 10, and this is going to be 10 minus 1. So you want to go ahead and say, hey, we take 10 away from 100, and we're taking 1 away from 10. And you put this all together, and the final answer is going to be CCXCIX. And there you have it. Hopefully this helps and clarify some of those issues with Roman numerals.